satisfied.
How often do you sleep together?
Do you have sex often?
Hardly ever, maybe 3 times a week.
Constantly. I'd say 3 times a week.
All right, how much sex are you having, and is it enough? New research is in, and we're going to tell you how scientists say you can actually boost the desire in your relationship. Join us right now is Wall Street Journal relationship columnist Elizabeth Bernstein, and join us also are Chris and Afton Mower from West Jordan, Utah. They have worked through some issues to successfully improve their own sex life. We'll be talking to them in just a second. Elizabeth, I want to start with you, though. Conventional wisdom, as we were just seeing in that clip from that Woody Allen film, conventional wisdom has long held that many men in heterosexual relationships want to have sex more than their female counterparts, but that it was physical drive that led them there. But you've spoken to therapists and scientists who say it actually may be emotional. How so?
Increasingly, researchers who look into this think that it's biological, of course, but it's emotional, and that men get so much of their emotional intimacy needs met through sex. Women get that same emotional intimacy need at all sorts of places. They can talk to their best friend for an hour, they can hug their children, they can hug coworkers, whatever, but they're getting it elsewhere.
Chris, you were unhappy with the frequency of your sex life in your marriage, to the point at one point you were kind of keeping a notebook charting intimacy. What was that data telling you, and do you agree with what Elizabeth's saying, that there was an emotional component missing for you in that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started to create this notebook and keep track of the frequency of sex, who was initiating it, and also just my emotions and the thoughts about the way we were connecting during sex. The emotional part was a big part for me. So I learned, that we weren't having sex for 4 months at a time, maybe, and the times that we had it because she initiated. So.
And Afton, were you equally unhappy or concerned about the state of your physical relationship with your husband, or were you mostly unhappy that he was unhappy?
Really mostly unhappy that he was unhappy. Chris was very loving and patient, and always gave so much to me emotionally that I was pretty content in that way. Didn't feel so much the need for physical. But his unhappiness was really hard for me.
And you two have worked on things, and we're going to get to how you began to turn a corner in just a moment. But Elizabeth, quickly tell us, everybody often wants to know, what do the studies say is the average amount of sex that couples in the U.S. are having each month?
Well, to look at married couples, 80% of married couples are having sex a few times a month or more. 47% are saying absolutely a few times a month. 32% are saying 2 to 3 times per week.
Interesting, and it depends, as we again saw in that movie clip in the beginning. Some people think, a few times a month is a lot, and some people think it's or a few times a week is a lot, and some people think it's not enough at all. Chris, back to you guys. Now, a book was kind of the beginning of how you and Afton began to fix things. What was the name of that book, and how did it help you specifically?
Sure, yeah, that was definitely one of the catalysts there. The name of the book is Passionate Marriage by Dr. David Schnarch. I picked it up and started reading, and I quickly came to realize that I was contributing to at least half of the issues we had sexually. It was pretty humbling to realize that. The other part is I realized that if I wanted to be happy, I needed to change something about myself, and it gave me the tools to do that by becoming more emotionally independent.
What do you mean by that?
I guess the ability to self-soothe, the ability to stand on my own 2 feet and understand what I want emotionally, understand what my emotional needs are, independent of someone else validating who I was. So.
And Afton, you said reading the book actually made you feel more sexy, which made you feel like having more sex, and then subsequently you all are having more sex. Did you expect to get that out of reading the book, or were you sort of like, you weren't sure when you went into reading it?
I didn't know what I would get. I just knew it was important to him. And really, when I started reading the book, it made me very uncomfortable because it was very explicit, and it seemed like the couples in their problems were solved a little too easily. But after, getting through the book, I read it very quickly. I was given, I gained that it was okay for me to be a low desire partner, and that it was acceptable to be that way. And once I had permission to be that way, it made me reevaluate and say, well, is that really who I am? Because after we got married, I thought I had plenty of desire. And also, it's yeah, like you said, it really opened my eyes to what sex could be. A world that I had never really had any experience with. I grew up in a very conservative private family, so it educated me, and it did make me excited. And there was a lot of cool. Looked like it could be fun.
So that's good. That's a good. Fun is a good start when it comes to sex. Chris, I have to quickly ask you, because every man out there is going to want to know: are you content now with the frequency of how often you two are having sex, and how often are you having sex now?
Well, 2-3 times a week at this point, but it's not necessarily the frequency as well. I mean, there was an emotional component that was the void, and it feels good to have that.
Good. Well, thank you both so much for being here. We appreciate that. Appreciate it. Elizabeth Bernstein, more in her column, Bonds, in the Personal Journal section tomorrow.